Assalamu alaikum. Peace be unto you. We'd like to thank you for tuning in today, and we welcome you back for another edition brought to you by Muhammad's Temple United. Muhammad's Temple United is a collective body of believers and members of the Nation of Islam throughout the country who have joined together in a strong brotherhood and strong sisterhood to unite all of the temples across the country. As we're taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Islam is a unifying religion, and we are taking that into practice by coming together and doing something for ourselves to create heaven while we live right here on earth. We invite you all to join us in this beautiful unity of brotherhood and sisterhood. Whether you are a member of the Nation of Islam or you are new to Islam, we welcome you to come and join us as we come together and build something for ourselves. We ask that you join us every Sunday at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time to hear the teachings of Allah as taught by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad by one of our ministers throughout the country who will be rotating each week. So please try to be on time so you will not miss out on any of these powerful lectures. We also encourage you to tell a friend and family member to join us as well. It is important that all of our people get a chance to hear the truth so that they may make their decision. For those of you who would like to support Muhammad's Temple United and the work that we are doing to spread this truth throughout the country, please visit our Cash App at $Muhammad's Army. And for more information, you may reach us at 602-598-9009. Again, we thank you and we welcome you to Muhammad's Virtual Sunday Lectures. So without further ado, we'd like to present to you today's Muhammad's Sunday Virtual Lecture.
In the most holy name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful, the life giver, and the life restorer, who came to us, the black man and woman in America, in the divine person of Master W.D. Farad Muhammad. And in the name of his divine servant and messenger, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, I greet our listeners, our viewers, in the greeting words of peace and paradise in the Arabic language of Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum means peace be unto you. Whatever religious persuasion, whatever religious group that you belong to, if you don't belong to any religious group, what we all seek, regardless of your background, regardless of your experience, we all seek peace. So, brothers and sisters, welcome once again to Muhammad's Temple of Islam United, to our Sunday lectures. And we are taught because we are followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Even though he's still the most misrepresented, misunderstood black man that ever lived among us, we have to introduce you or reintroduce you to him, because there's generations of black people that are living today that never even heard of the man. You heard of his students, Muhammad Ali, the greatest of all times. You've heard of Malcolm X, the great orator. You heard of Minister Farrakhan. You've heard of some of his other ministers, Minister James Shabazz, Minister Abdul Rahman, Minister Yusuf Bey, Minister Basir Muhammad, some of his greatest trainers and captains, Captain Yusuf Shah, Captain John Muhammad, Captain Roscoe Muhammad. But you don't know and still don't understand the Honorable Elijah Muhammad that the Reader's Digest called the most influential man of our time. So, brothers and sisters, before we start, I'd like to say a prayer that is said by every Muslim in the world of Islam. It is called the opening prayer. So follow me, or just be silent and listen to the Muslim opening prayer. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. All praises is due to Allah, the Lord of all the worlds. The Beneficent, the Merciful, Master of this day of judgment in which we now live. Thee alone do we serve, and thee alone do we beseech for aid. Guide us along the right path, along the path of those who thou hast bestowed favors, but not along the path of those whom thy wrath is brought down, nor along those who go astray after they have heard thy teaching. Say he, Allah, is one God. Allah is he who nothing is independent of, but upon whom we all depend. He need begets not, nor is begotten, and there is none like him. And I bear witness that none deserve to be praised or worshipped besides Allah, who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, and I bear witness that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is his apostle messenger. Ameen. Brothers and sisters, we ask that you take this time, the few minutes that we will be here, to listen to what we have to say, because we believe what we have to say will help you not only to balance your life, but to give you life. My name is Brother Abdul Haq Muhammad. I'm a member of the Nation of Islam. I've been a member of the Nation of Islam ever since I was 16 years old. I started processing when I was about 15. I was a man-child in a promised land. I was a young boy seeking a way out from the life that I was living, that I was going nowhere and was headed to death. But I was found by one of the followers of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and he taught me and helped me find my way into the Nation of Islam. We're going to talk to you today, brothers and sisters, not long, but we want to talk to you today about a few things that we need to be concerned about. Because as we are a people here in America, they say that we're about 20 to 30 million. We could be 40 million. We could be 60 million, because sometimes they don't take all the statistics in the registry. There's some of us that are being born in the back alleys, the stairways, the highways and the byways. Some of our black sisters, they drop babies and sometimes they're not recorded. So we don't know how many of us are around here. I got a lot of children myself. I had 7 children. Maybe 5 or 6 grandchildren. I got about 4 great-grandchildren. And who knows, I might have soon some great-great-grandchildren. But we welcome you and we thank you for listening to us this afternoon. The subject we're going to talk about, because, right now in America, black people are on the defense. They're murdering us. The police are killing us. We're killing each other. We're dying in the hospitals. The immortality rate is so low among black women. Death is walking side by side with us. So we have to make a determination, are we going to survive? And how are we going to survive? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in the Message to the Black Man, that great book that he wrote and published in 1965, asked the question, do we have the qualified men and women for self-government? Let me repeat that again so you can be clear. The question he asked, do we, black people, have qualified men and women for self-government? I know you said, ooh, that's kind of scary. Self-government, we're going to be doing something for ourselves. We don't have to be on welfare no more. We don't have to depend on the white man. We don't have to go to his schools. We're going to have to set up everything of our own. Yes. Yes, you do. That is your destiny. You have a rendezvous with destiny. But before I get into that subject, brothers and sisters, I don't want you to get away. Because if and when we do set up our self-government, if you're not healthy, if you're not vibrant in your physical, all that will mean nothing. You understand? Wealth without health is death. So we are going to take a few minutes and talk about how to eat to live. We're not going to let you get away because you know you're not eating right. You know that we are dying from diabetes, from kidney failure, from heart attacks. Men under 30 and 40 years old, black men and women dying from heart attack. They call it the silent killer. Okay? We're dying from everything that you can name. Yet and still we look like we're the most healthiest people. They say black don't crack. Well, we cracking. We starting to crack now. We might look good. I know I look good. But if I don't take care of myself, I may not look like this or may not be able to walk around. So the number one thing you got to stop eating is pork. I don't care how good it tastes. Just because it tastes good don't mean it's good for you. Okay? We got to get off of the pig. It is the most filthiest, nastiest animal. Why do you think the Muslims, the Arab Muslims, and the different Muslim communities don't eat pork? You ever ask your question? Why that question? Well, you see the sign that says halal? Why do you think the Jews don't eat it? You think that's just a religious signature? You ever thought about why don't they eat pork? And they have what is called kosher? Because they know that we don't know that pork is the most filthiest animal. It is poison, and it gets into our bloodstream and breaks us down. Listen to me. So that's the first thing you need to do. Now, there's some other things that we need to stay away from. Now, you know, I eat a lot of sweets. I have to admit, brothers and sisters, I like chocolate cake and bean pies and oatmeal cookies. Sometimes I OD, and I got to chill on that. I got to back up. But that's not good for you either, too much sugar. That's a whole nother subject, okay? But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in his great, iconic book, How to Eat to Live, he tells us that we can live as long as we want and be healthy while we live. He said, once you get off pork, you can eat lamb, you can eat veal, and you can eat chicken. The veal and the lamb is the sheep. The sheep cleans itself. The hog doesn't. The hog will lay in mud and doo-doo and slop all day long and wallow in it. But the sheep, they'll clean themselves. They only eat certain grains because you are what you eat. You can eat veal, which is also from the lamb or the sheep. And you can eat chicken. We got to be careful with chicken too because, you know, chickens, if you don't monitor them, if you don't raise them in a certain environment, they could be some of the filthiest animals too. They eat a whole lot of stuff too. But we love some fried chicken. You know, I like fried chicken, baked chicken, barbecue chicken, but we have to be careful. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad always encouraged us to be really vegetarians. But I know that's kind of hard for people just to jump into that. But he said, eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. Eat a lot of it. Because vegetables, because we are plants ourselves. This is why we're on a planet. That's where the word plant comes from, the word planet. We are planets in our own self because, you know, they have some trees in what they call Jellystone or Yellowstone Park in California, some of the trees are over 1,000 years old. And they found that the same elements, the same substance that's in the trees are in our bodies. Then how come the tree can live so long and we die at 50? We die at 60. 70 years old, we stepping off. We checking out. Okay? They said they have some turtles. They have found turtles. You know, the big turtles with the shell? They found dolphins and sharks that are over 500 years old because they live in accord with the nature in which they were created. But we as black people, we're always in the Chinese restaurant. We're always eating everything that they give to us. There's nothing wrong with enjoying some of that sometimes. You can't eat that all the time. But eat, he says, fruits and vegetables. And eat a lot of onions and garlic. I remember I was in this Chinese restaurant one day, and there was a woman there. She was ordering something, and the person that was taking her order said, should I put some onions on? She said, you better not put no onions in there. Get them onions out of there. And I was standing next to the sister, and she ordered everything that wasn't good for her and said, no, don't give me the onions, which was the best thing on her menu. See, onions have a substance in it, has a chemical in it that cleanses the blood. That's right. Onions and garlic. You know, the people, you know, in America, you know, you suffer from, this is the only country that they have a high rate of diabetes and cancer because of many of times, what we eat. You know, in the Caribbean countries, in Central and South America, they have a very low rate of cancer. You know why? Because they eat a lot of spices. They eat a lot of onions and garlic and peppers. That thing cleanses your blood. But we don't eat that. I remember as a young boy, and all you heard of Popeye the Sailor Man. I'm Popeye the Sailor Man, you know. And he was a cartoon. And he had an enemy called Pluto because they was always fighting over olive oil. You remember olive oil? Some of you are old enough to remember that. I think the cartoon still comes on. And one day, Popeye's strength came from eating spinach, which is a very high rate vegetable. They said it is one of the most best vegetables you can eat because it has so many vitamins and minerals in it. And Popeye would eat the spinach and it would make him strong again. And he was able to keep Pluto. He was to knock him down and knock him out. But Pluto, you know, he peaked that. He said, so this would make him strong. Pluto was able to confiscate all the spinach in the country or in the neighborhood or in the community, and he put it in a warehouse. So he started beating Popeye down. Bam, bam. Knocking Popeye out. Popeye was looking for spinach, trying to find something. He couldn't find it. And Pluto gave Popeye a left hook. Bam! And knocked him over the wagons and the cars. And Popeye fell into a vegetable wagon. And then he found in the vegetable wagon, he didn't find any spinach, he sniffed garlic. And all of a sudden, he didn't have no spinach, but he had that garlic and he got strong again. And as a little boy, I didn't understand that. They were giving us a message that garlic has vitality. It has the greatest substance in it to make you strong and give you life. So, I'll just read something from the book. This is it. This is a smaller version. This is the large that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wrote. This is How to Eat to Live, Book 1. And he writes, he said, proper foods, spiritually and physically. He said, eat to live and not to die. He said the Bible teaches us that God, in the end of the world, when he comes, will prolong the people's lives because they have not been eating the proper foods, both spiritually and physically. We have to accept it. That is, if we love life and not death. That is quite simple. He said, we live less than 100 years. He said, that's nothing. Some of you praise that, oh, my grandmother's 109. I remember when I used to tell people not to eat pork. They said, well, my grandmama ate pork. My great-grandfather ate pork, and they lived to be 100. They lived to be 110. You know why? Because they lived on the farm. They probably ate more vegetables and fruits and different type of herbs and spices. So that counteracts the pork that they may have been eating. They lived under less stress. They didn't have all this madness that we experience in America today. They didn't have McDonald's, and they didn't have Burger King. They didn't have Wendy's. So that's probably why they lived that long. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, now, he said, you got to stay away from drugs, alcohol, and all of these kind of things that take our life. So that's simple. I hope you're with me, brothers and sisters. Now, I just dropped that. But when I come back at another point in time, because we do this every Sunday, I'm going to talk about the food. And I know some of you may not want to hear it, but sometimes you need to hear things that you don't particularly like to hear. Okay. Do we have qualified black men and women for self-government? We complain 98% of the time what the white man is doing to us, what he's not doing to us, what he's not giving us. We talk about how he's oppressing us and persecuting us. 98% of the time. But 98% of the time we buy from him. We want to be like him. We want to live like him. But we complain about what he's doing to us. And we buy what we want and beg for what we need. This is true. You'll see brothers and sisters with big BMWs, Escalades, or Audis, all kind of automobiles. Some of you wearing $400 or $500 sneakers and all of these designer clothes. But we don't take care of ourselves. I hope everyone's all right so far. Now, there's a movement called the reparations movement, which is right and exact. The white America, the American government owes black people for the 400 years of oppression that we experienced since they brought us here in 1555, some say 1619. To America. They owe us reparations. They have given reparations to all other groups, but not us. When we ask for it, they tell us to go sit down. Why y'all still talking about that? Oh, get over it. That's what they tell us. Get over it already, Raheem. You know. But no, we deserve that. But what we deserve better is not reparations, but the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said separation. See, we don't want to deal with that because separation represents independence. It represents work. It represents responsibility. But do we have the qualified people? Right today, if they said, the white man said, all right, all of y'all black people can go to your own country, we're going to give you this. Could we, or are we qualified? Do we have the necessary qualifications for self-government? Now, let me go back a little bit because all this is wrapped up in the spiritual teachings of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I talked about how we got here. This was predicted in the history of the Bible and the Holy Quran of us being here in America. One of the most prolific And one of the most simplest way of seeing this here was the story of the seed of Abraham. Because we are the seed of Abraham. In the Bible, this is the Holy Bible, or what they call the Holy Bible. It ain't all holy. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said there's truth in this Bible. He said, but it's not all truth. He said it's poisoned. He said that we have to understand the Bible so we would not be snared by the falsehood that's been added to it. But there's truth in there. But in the Bible, in Genesis 15:13, listen, this is God talking to Abraham. And he says unto Abraham, know for a surety that thy seed will be a stranger in a land that is not theirs. This is God talking to Abraham. He said, Abraham, you will be in a strange land. Your people will be in a strange land. Your seed, your generation, your offspring will be your seed will be in a strange land under a strange people. And they shall serve that people that they're under. And they shall be afflicted or be afflicted for 400 years. Now that describes us. Well, there's no other people that can be fit the description than the black man and woman of America. But then it goes on to say, and that nation that you're serving, this is God talking to Abraham. That nation that you shall serve, he said, I shall judge them. This is God talking, letting you know, black man and woman, God is in love with you. He has concern for you. Not a spook God, not some mystery. He's talking to Abraham. If he's talking to Abraham, he had to have a tongue. He had to have speech. He had to have a larynx. Okay? He had to have vocal cords. So he said, that people that you serve, I will judge, and afterwards you shall come out with great substance. God is talking to Abraham, telling Abraham, once you have served these people, I will come. This is God coming. And he will judge the people you've been serving. And then you will come out. Come out, see? There's that come out. That's why I talked about separation. You can't stay in, but you got to come out. He said, and thou shalt go to their fathers after you come out in peace. Now, you will come out, talking about us, and you will go to your fathers in peace. Now, if this original Bible was written in Hebrew or Aramaic, so if he said you will come out and go to your fathers in peace, if it said it not in English, because this is the King James version, but if it said in its original scripture, it would say you will go to your fathers in Islam, because that's what the word Islam means. It means peace. Okay? So you never thought about that, right? Okay. I hope you're all doing well so far. We're moving along, brothers and sisters. Just stick with us. It is so good to talk to our people and to share what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad has given us. So we said, not just reparation, but separation. Because we have to be independent, because we are a nation of people 30, 40, 50 million or more. So you might say, well, we are all people in America. Why can't we just all get along how come we just can't be in love with each other and just be happy and share? Well, that's not a bad thought. That's not a bad idea, because we should all get along. But we have to put things in perspective, brothers and sisters, because if you are on the bottom, you are being discriminated against. You are not receiving justice in the courts. You're not receiving freedom of speech, freedom of the things that you need to as an independent people, and you're not getting equality, then now we just can't all get along. So even God talking to Jesus, and some of you, our brothers and sisters, are Christians, in the book of Matthew, in 15:24, Jesus said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep in the house of Israel. Letting you know that there's a selection. There's someone that he's going towards. There's someone, he ain't going to everybody. He said, we're going to the lost sheep. Okay? He said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep. We are the lost sheep. We're lost in the wilderness of North America, trying to find our way out, trying to find our position. We are the only people in America. They said this is the melting pot. America is a melting pot. This is the great mosaic. But I read a book that said we are the only people that's still trying to find our way and melt into the American system. James Baldwin said we must be schizophrenic. You remember James Baldwin? He wrote the book The Fire Next Time. James Baldwin met with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Malcolm took James Baldwin to meet with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad made a proposition and a proposal to James Baldwin. He said, brother, if you come with me, he said, you don't have to worry about them attacking you, because James Baldwin was a great writer. He said, you can write for us and I'll have you on our staff. And James Baldwin was a homosexual. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad didn't deal with that. He said he'll deal with that later. But he said James Baldwin was brilliant. And he met with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And James Baldwin, after that, wrote a book called The Fire Next Time. And he talked about how he met Honorable Elijah Muhammad, went to his house. He said as he entered the house, he seen these black men and women so serene, so disciplined, so calm. He said he felt that he was in a royal presence. This is in The Fire Next Time. He said when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad walked in the room, he said it was almost like a God, the presence of God entered, because what he saw was a great, great black man in love with his people. And James Baldwin said we must be schizophrenics, because he said sometimes we call ourselves American, then we call ourselves African American, then we call ourselves black, then we call ourselves Negroes. Then we call ourselves something else, and Africans. What are we? He said, what are we? He said, that's a schizophrenic mind, because you don't know who you are. And that's the first thing that we were taught when we came into the nation of who we are, the knowledge of self. Okay? So in Matthew 15:24, Jesus said he goes to the children of Israel, the lost sheep. And then in the same chapter, 10:56, Jesus tells his disciples, he's explaining to them, he's directing them, he's giving them their guidance. He said, go not into the way of the Gentiles. Now who's the Gentiles? That's the general white people. That's another direction, letting you know there's a selection. He said, go not into the way of the Gentiles, but rather go to the lost sheep in the house of Israel. So letting you know that there has to be a distinction, has to be, because we're not going to everybody. Whoever they need for someone to go to, they're going to get that person. But Jesus gave a direct order. Now, I explained that. Now, you go and you read that and salivate over that. Okay? Now, are we qualified? Do we have the qualifications for self-government? The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in his book, Message to the Black Man, he asked that question. I will read some of what he asked. He said, do we, talking about black people now, have the qualified men and women for self-government? He goes on to say, the answer to that above question is yes. We do not have to be equal in knowledge with every nation to be successful in operating our own government. Now, what is a government? A government is an organized body of a nation, a society that has different branches: finance, education, mathematician, construction, medicine, all the branches of government. You have senators, you have governors. That's a government that you will govern yourself by. Ain't no just fly-by organization. Some of us can't even stay in an organization a week. You want to do a government, but we have the qualified people. So he said, there are probably many independent people who do not have among them who have the know-how of the American educated black man or so-called American Negro. There are some countries, there's some nations, big and small, don't have as many educated people that we have. Let me explain. When my daughter was about 6 years old, she was in a school called Sankofa. And every year, the Congressional Black Caucus had their conference in Washington, D.C. And they would take the children there to view, to be interviewed, and to observe. And I went, as a parent one day, and when I got there, I saw so many black people coming from different backgrounds with all kinds of expertise and skills. I saw tall black men, short black men, fat black men, skinny black men and women. I saw some were educated, light-skinned, dark-skinned, some in between. But I saw black men and women that were educated, that had finance companies, that were mathematicians, that were engineers, that were educators. That's right. At that convention, I said, oh my God, this is what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was talking about. There were black people there that had farms, that ran multi-million-dollar companies. There were black, listen, the qualifications is there. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad goes on to say, let me say what he had to say. We have enough technicians, that's what I saw at the convention. He said we have mechanical engineers. You can go in your neighborhood, you can find any brother. Said, brother, you know how to fix a car? You know how to take out a transmission? Yeah, man, I do that. Probably never went to school, but he can put a transmission in and take it out and rebuild it. He said, we got construction workers, engineers. We got black people that are engineers that can build houses, architects. He said, civil engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical engineers. I knew a sister that could wire my whole house. I mean, look at the wire, the red, the blue wires, and we wire my whole house, and all kind of lights will be coming on. LED and everything. Yes. And he said, we got physicians. We got many doctors. We got chemists. I know a young brother, one of the ministers in the Nation of Islam that I'm in contact with, Brother Minister Waleed Muhammad. His son has a PhD in, I think, astrophysics or something like that. Okay? We got agriculturalists, navigators. We got even black people, got astronauts. We can send black people up in space. Okay? Get you off the ground. He said, we have all of this. We have the qualifications. But are we ready for independence, for self-government? Are we ready to stop depending on white people or the American government to take care of us? See, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, in that same article, he says that once we set up our self-government, we cannot pattern it. We cannot duplicate it off of the order of the white government. We don't want corruption. We want everything as his teacher, Master Farah Muhammad Garden first told him. He said everything has to be right and exact. Okay? He said we can't pattern our government the same way that they have. Our government has to be based on freedom, justice, and equality. Every individual that is a part of our nation or government has to have the freedom of expression, the freedom of creativity, and the freedom of movement. We have to have justice. If any black man or woman is wrong, they have a right to due process to come before the elders or the Islamic Council, whatever we have set up, and get justice. Not like us here in America under the white man's government. You got black men and women that are stacked, packed, and crammed and jammed in the prison system in America. Right here in New York City where I live, they have a place called Rikers Island. They have thousands of black men and women. They're talking about closing it down, shutting it down. That's how bad things are. Then we have to have equality. We have to be equal. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said we cannot be equal. He said, I can't put you in society the way you are now. We're savage. We're out of control. I was just at a rally yesterday. Some young men in my neighborhood went to a local school, high school. They were fighting. They stabbed one. And the young man died, 17 years old. Who knows what they were fighting about? And I got a chance to speak, and I told them, I said, we have to deal with our children like steel and velvet. Velvet is a smooth material. We have to love them, show them that we care for them. We have to guide them and nurture them. But when they're out of control, we got to be like steel. We have to step to them and say, son, you're wrong. And be firm with them. That's what our children need. One of the first things the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, when he met with God and after getting his mission, he set up a school called the University of Islam. And in 1975, we had over 46 schools throughout the country. But that was the first thing he did. You know why? Because he knew that you can't teach the liberation and life and true Islam when your children's minds are in the hands of your enemy. Because they're going to come. When you teach them, then they go to school, then you have to take that stuff out of their heads all over again. So they're being taught and guided by the enemy. We have to start with our children. Because we cannot set up a self-government, brothers and sisters, without having our own schools in order to teach our people. So that has to be done. And this self-government has to be prepared. Because we cannot, the way things are happening right now, and the way we're being regulated as a people. The governor of the state of Florida, he said that he doesn't want any form of black history, any form of black knowledge into the curriculum in the schools. And we, in many of the major cities in America, we represent 75, 80% of the student population. But we don't control the school. We don't control the curriculum. We don't control the textbooks. And that's what the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, he's putting together a bill or some kind of enactment that's not going to be taught in the school that our children go to. Either we got to take over the schools or set up our own school. That's the alternative. Self-government, but we got to be qualified. But we have, as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad laid out, we have the qualified men and women. But I know it's scary. Because we are scared to do something for ourselves. But you know, if you look in nature, if you look at the nature and things in life, you can see that every form, regardless of how high it is or how low, seeks its own independence, seeks its own self-government or self-activity. If you look at the animals, just study them. Look at the kangaroo. I've watched the birth of a kangaroo. The kangaroo mother, the kangaroo has a pocket. And the pocket is where its babies are in when it's nurturing and developing. But when the baby kangaroo or the infant comes out of the wound of the kangaroo, it crawls from the mother's womb up, crawling. And it has to crawl into the pocket. And the mother does not help it. It doesn't pull it up. It has to do it on its own. It has to be independent. If it falls to the ground, that's it. It dies. It is teaching the baby kangaroo independence, self-determination. And it crawls into the pocket. Okay? Look at the birds. After a bird comes into existence, the mother bird, whatever it is, an eagle or a sparrow, whatever bird it is, a blackbird, a crow, a hawk, that bird is in the nest. And at a certain time, that mother pushes that bird out of the nest and makes it fly. Even though the bird may not want to go, it may fight a little bit, but the mother pushes it out. And once it gets out, it flaps its wings and soars and moves throughout the environment, finding its own self-determination and own government, if you will. But sometimes, do you see birds dead on the ground when you're driving? Or you see, those are the birds that refuse to fly, refuse to leave the nest. And some of our people are here dependent. You got some of our people living in the house with their mother, 40, 50 years old, still living in the house. And that bird pushes that mother bird pushes that bird out. Look at the lion or the lioness. After a certain time, that cub, the mother has fed it, has nurtured it. Now it pushes it out into the jungles. And that cub has to chart its destiny. It has to look at its environment and look at the terrain and the jungles and looks at the monkeys and looks at the snakes and all the hyenas and all the other animals. But the mother puts it out. The mother knows that it's going into a hostile environment. But the mother knows that that cub has to find its independence, has to go on his own. And that's how we are in America. We got to get it together. As James Brown said, get it together or leave it alone. Okay? We have to go independently. And we're coming to a time, as I'm nearing my conclusion, brothers and sisters, we're coming to a time, if you're watching the movement of America, where we're going to be forced to do something for ourselves. Can't you imagine a government of our own? I don't know if I'll see it in my lifetime, but just imagine it. Visualize it. I'm going to tell you something. It's going to be a time where circumstances, conditions, and positions is going to force all of us to come together. I don't care what branch of the Nation of Islam you are in. When the white man or when the government, whoever our enemies come against us, they ain't going to ask you what brand of Islam you belong to. They're going to move against you. They're not going to ask you if you belong to some church, or if you're a Pentecostal or Baptist or Methodist or Catholic. They're not going to ask you if you belong to a sorority or fraternity. They're going to ask you if you are a Crip or Blood. They're not going to ask you if you live on South Street in Philadelphia, or you live in Harlem in New York City, or you live in Compton in California, or you live in San Antonio in Texas, or you live in Oakland in California, or you live in North Carolina or South Carolina. They won't ask you that. They're going to move against us as they are slowly doing it now. Okay? And it ain't going to matter who you are and who you say you with. If you're not with God, if you're not with yourself, then you're going to be left alone or left alone. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad gave us the solution. He said we have the qualified people. We have the qualified men and women for self-government. Do you want self-government or do you want to stay here? We got black people now talking about living in Africa. But we don't want you bringing your foolishness in Africa, bringing your cocaine, you snorting cocaine and hanging out and our women living other than themselves. We want a government of freedom, justice, and equality. So brothers and sisters, I hope that you'll learn something from what I had to say. And by no means did I intend to be disrespectful to anyone, but just to bring you the truth as it was given to us by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So thank you for listening, and may Allah grant each and every one of you with the light of understanding. May they grant you with long life and eat right so you can live to see possibly a government of our own. So thank you, and I leave you as I came to you, and you're going to get some information after I close about how you can learn more, how you can find out some of the things that we are doing, and maybe you want to share with us what you're doing so we can come together in unity, because that is the key to our self-government. We have to start with that. And thank you, and I leave you as I came to you in the greeting words of peace and paradise in the Arabic language of Assalamu alaikum. Brothers and sisters, I just want to close out with a short prayer, a prayer asking for us as a people, asking God, Allah, whatever God you call him, to bless us and to give us what we need. Just listen. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent and Merciful, all praises are due to Allah who came among us in the person of W.D. Farad Muhammad. Oh Allah, we ask for your mercy. We ask for your beneficence. We ask that you guide us in this time of trouble, in this time of decadence, and in this time of confusion, in this time where all kinds of viruses and disease attacking us day and night. Oh Allah, if we are weak, make us strong. If we are doubtful, remove the doubt. If we are fearful, remove the fear and make us fearless. But we are asking for your help. We know that you're the master of all circumstances. And oh Allah, we thank you for giving us and raising among us the most honorable.
For more information on how you can reclaim your own, call us at 602-598-9009. Muhammad's Temple United, uniting the black man and woman across America and across the globe.